am Daisy P. Magallanes from BSed 2A, major in English. And for today, I will be having a demonstration lecture, and the main objective of my lesson is the students are expected to identify the situational context, apply situational context in real life situations. So now, let's start. Going further to our discussion, let's talk about first what is situational. So situational is a person or things in regards to surroundings or circumstances. When we say context, context is the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea, and in terms of which it can be fully understood and assessed. And also, when we say context, it is refers to those objects or entities which surround a focal event in these disciplines, typically a communicative event of some kind. Context is a frame that surrounds the event that provides resources for its appropriate interpretations. So now, let's move on to the situational context. So when we say situational context, for example, in every situation or any events, there is a situational context occur in that situation. So, situational context, it is describes the reason why something is occurring and the appropriate behavior and action associated with the situations. So, it is the one of the types of context that influence communication. So, context, when we say context, it is the situation or circumstances or specific setting in which an event occurs. So, for example, maybe it is a place or any field that the situations or the event occurs. So, as I said earlier, that the context is the circumstances that form the settings of an event or ideas, and also context, it can be object that help to fully understand the situations and fully assess appropriately. So the situational context typically is used in regards to communication. The situational context of speech influences what is considered socially appropriate and how the message is received. So the situational context is defined on the event itself. We communicate differently in different settings. So just think about on how you talk in class or in party or in playing games. So because we use different types and styles of communication in all of those settings. So just imagine if one person used the same speech while they are playing an intense sport games and he used that speech at the party, this would not be appropriate at all because situational context or scenarios can both lead into different types of communications. So, in situational context, there is advantages and disadvantages. So now, let's talk about first the advantages. So, this is the advantages of situational context. The situational context permits that presentations of a wide range of language items. The situation serves as a means of contextualizing the language, and this helps clarify its meanings. So the students can be involved in the development of the presentation as well as in solving the grammar problem. It will make it less dry than a traditional grammar explanations. So moreover, the situations, if well chosen, it makes more likely, more memorable than a simple explanation. So, these factors all suggest that this approach reach high in terms of efficacy. So now, let's move on to disadvantages of situational context. So, the disadvantages of situational context, if the students are in the wrong mindset, they are unlikely to do the kind of cognitive work involved in the induction of grammar rules. So, this kind of presentations is also takes more time than an explanation. Time spent in the presenting of language is inevitably time spent at the expense of language practice, and also it is arguable because on what the student most needs is not the presentations of rules but also the opportunities to practice the language. So in terms of generative situations, it is lowest points in terms of economy. So in these situations, it needs a resourceful teachers who are not only able to conjure up the situations to generate the structural identical sentences, but also a teachers who are able to become a means to prepare any necessary visual aids. So now let's move on to the teaching grammar via situational context. So the teacher would be wise to be organize their lesson plans and conformity with the following, making sure that the learners will understood their lesson plan. So let us talk about the stages or the steps in making it. So first step, what it means. So the students need to understand the relationship between the meaning and the context of that situation. So number 2, what it sounds like. So the students need to know the relationship between the natural pronunciations and the spelling. So the third is what it looks like. So the students need to know how to form the target structure. At the last point is when and how it can be used. So the students need to know the functions of the target phrasings. So in this situation, the students will be given greatly assisted in their teacher in their language learning by the use of the contextual passages because this provide them with the meanings not necessarily available in the target phrasing. One of the best ways to explain meaning is through the use of situational passages. So these teaching styles can be done by many ways, including the use of pictures and real objects. However, situational teaching must be closely monitored by the teachers, at least in the beginning, and the students ought to be engaged at all times. So situational teaching underscores the important relationship between context and the meaning. So that would be all of my discussion. I hope you learned something from this video. Yo!